You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Leah Daniels and Kevin Grossman. Today's episode is about AI Notetakers, friend or foe of recruiting. Enjoy the podcast. Leah, it's been way too long. I know we've both been super busy, but so excited to be together with you again to record a new podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. You know, we always say it's been too long, but actually this time
it was too long.
It's been weeks. We usually are really consistent, and I haven't been on U.S. soil consistently. So I am excited to be back and chatting with you today.
You've been traveling up a storm, and I haven't this time, but I've been traveling through data up a storm. So it's actually been, I really enjoyed it because there's things that we're digging into that we've just never done before. Every year we dig a little bit deeper into our Candy benchmark data, and so excited at that. But I've been good. Otherwise, it's great to see and talk with you again and to catch up. You've been to all the many shows, many conferences, all over the place.
So much Las Vegas in my life.
Did you like shower for a week after all those Vegas trips?
I did the smartest thing I've ever done in Vegas this time. I mean, it doesn't take much. The bar is low. But I got an Airbnb off the strip this time.
Oh, nice. That's probably better, huh?
Can I just tell you, the thing that made me the happiest, this is so silly, is I was talking to somebody this one morning, and they said, do you know that it is $16 if you make coffee in your room now? And I was like, what?
Yes.
And I was like, that is insane. And
totally insane.
I spent exactly $1 or whatever it was on my K-cup that I didn't even want, but real coffee.
That's a much better idea. That is a much better idea, actually.
It was a huge win. But yeah, Las Vegas forever. And I think you saw this. I took a little trip to Iceland.
You did. So really quick, tell us what was that about?
So obviously we had COVID and all the things, and I have, as you know, a 12-year-old, and he has a hit list of places that he'd like to go. And a lot of them are big, like let's go to Japan or let's go to the Galapagos Islands. And I love this, but harder to do in the school year. And Iceland is on his list, and the kids had a day off on a Thursday and then basically a movie day on a Friday. And I was like, you know what? Let's pull them out Wednesday. We'll just do a quick fly over, 4 days, action-packed Iceland trip. But I have a funny story about this, which you might not have gotten. So first of all, everybody should go. Just go.
Oh, yeah. I want to go.
Just do it.
Sure.
Just go.
We want to go.
I have the itinerary. If you need it, let me know. And that's the funny thing. I have always traveled very fast and loose. Even when I business travel, I've been known to book flights or book hotels on the flight while I'm there, right?
My wife does that.
I'm brave.
Yep.
And we went with another family, and the dad on the other side was getting a little bit anxious about not having things booked. And so his anxiety was sort of palpable. And I went online and I spent 5 hours mapping our trip. And it's a good thing, because if I hadn't, we wouldn't have had a place to stay Friday night. So who knew? Planning's a good thing. You should do it sometimes. And so we did, and we had an absolutely amazing time. We got to see Aurora Borealis on Friday night, and then we finally came home, and on Monday or Tuesday night, it was back here in the States. So we got the Iceland version and the US version, and just incredible. Great trip. Really enjoyed it. But planning, who knew, Kevin? It's a thing you should try doing.
Yeah, and my wife does that too. But what we try to do is plan the major place to make sure that we do have our flights and we do have places to stay, especially when the kids are involved too. But there's other things that we just figure out when we get there. We may book a tour or two or do those things, but there may be other things that we see on the fly. When it was just her and I traveling, we definitely winged it a lot more, which was super out of my comfort zone, super duper. But we did it, and we survived, and it was a really good time.
We had one kind of major thing every day that we had to like make a time or a date or whatever, and then everything else was fast and loose. And I gotta tell you, the best thing we ended up doing was the one thing we had on day 2 was to get on the ferry and make it back to the mainland. Okay, we got it. Got on the ferry, made it to the mainland.
Yep.
The world's your oyster. We're leaving. We're going to head down south to the black sand beaches. They're super famous. Everybody knows them. Lots of tourists like it. We get about, 20 or 30 feet from the ferry. And somebody's like, hey, there's a black sand beach right there. Should we stop? So we stopped at the random black sand beach.
Really?
It was the best place we stopped the entire trip.
Nice.
By ourselves. There was no one there. Beautiful beach. Just unbelievable.
That is awesome. Yeah, I've heard from others that have gone. It's an amazing trip. So we're doing something different over our winter break coming up, but we're going to go to Italy and Greece with the kids.
Oh.
During off season,
Can I be
I know.
a kid?
Yes, we're going off season. We're going right after Christmas during their winter break. Because the good news is our kids don't like to miss school, and we don't like them to miss school either. And my daughter worked all summer, so we weren't doing anything then. Plus, I don't want to be in the heat of Italy during the summertime. But anyway, we're looking forward to it. So as we segue now, so let me tell you something about Google Meet. And this is the segue again to what our topic is. So Google Meet is we've always been a Google Workspace, whether it was a talent board or now with ERE. We got rid of Zoom. I finally figured out how to do picture-in-picture in Google Meet like all the other platforms do. I can believe it or not, I had 100 calls before I figured that one out. Don't ask me why. User error, I guess. I don't know. But what I found is that a lot of these data reporting sessions that we're doing with the Candy Benchmark research participants, they want to record the session because they want to be able to share it with their teams, review again based on what I'm sharing with them. And what it's doing automatically now is it's transcribing too. It's providing a transcription of the recording. And there was a positive value there because even though I'm not using them, somebody did ask for the transcription too. And I'm like, sure, I'll provide it to you. And we're not sharing this information publicly. It's only for the company itself to be used. But now the segue, right, is, man, there's a lot of things out there that are note takers, for example. They're helping recruiters and hiring managers as well as candidates and hurting too, potentially, right, at the same time. So share a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about.
This morning when we were chatting, it was like AI, like not AI in general, but AI that's accessible, this like easily accessible AI right now. I think it's the big sort of change in all of our worlds. So GPTs and these note takers, right? Are they friend or foe to recruiting?
I think it's both. Right? Now, the first time that I heard the faux part, I'll start there because that was in the context was an organization that I did a panel discussion with last year at a conference. I think it was the Transform conference, actually. Anyway, long story short, the TA leader was talking about, hey, what we ran into with our tech candidates is that we are doing a virtual interview and we are asking them a question, and we started noticing that the candidates were pausing and they were looking to the right, and then they were answering. And we figured out pretty quickly that they were using ChatGPT or some generative AI to get answers to the questions that they were being asked and then providing them. But it was awkward and unnatural, and it was clear of what was going on. And that actually did not serve the candidates at all that were doing that. But this is a reality today.
Well, the question is, on one hand, do you want people who are leaning forward, leaning in to the tech? I think the answer is generally a yes.
Yes.
But then how do you baseline if not everyone is using the tech? Like, you probably have people who in their mind think that's cheating, and so they're not. And so they're being like the good student. They're not putting the questions into ChatGPT to help get themselves an edge on the answer. They're doing it manually. They're doing old school. Pick your word. So how do you evaluate when you've got people on both sides? Do you explicitly say, I expect you to be using this so I can baseline everybody the same? Do you say, I explicitly tell you not to do this, and if I catch you, you're out? Because we're not doing anything right now. We're silent, which I know is a thing that drives you crazy with candidate experience, is silence, right? You gotta take a stance.
Time for a talent sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the talent sync.
The same company that just was referencing that. Then they said, you know what? Talking about making a baseline across the board, they said, listen, with these technology candidates that we're vetting, let's give them the answers. And let's evaluate based on how they interpret and how they actually share and iterate back to us what we are looking for at the end of the day for our organization. So they said, let's just cut out that because they're gonna use it, but let's let them kind of prepare a presentation for us in a way ahead of time. This is what we're looking for. How are you going to present it to us? And those that were, if they're gonna verbatim regurgitate what they're hearing in generative AI, that they're vetting on that as opposed to how unique are you presenting that at the end of the day. They changed it, and that actually made it a better screening process.
Somebody used this example to me the other day, and I thought it was such a good one. So a number of years ago, Google came out with Google Translate.
Right.
And listen, I've used that thing more than anybody, as I have a child doing the French program to parents that don't speak French. Love that program, right? Love Lens, all of it. But this is a teacher, and what she said to me was, for me, all of this AI release, this accessible AI, is really the same as when Google pushed out Translate. And you're a Spanish teacher or a French teacher. You have to change the way you're teaching and testing because you can't for sure monitor that. You might be wrong one way or the other. So you got to figure out another way. And I love your answer with the company is saying, look, we can't monitor it. We can't manage it. We can't police it. Let's change what we're doing versus trying to strong arm the candidates. That's such a good answer, right?
Because they are using them. So here's the thing. And in our data this year, for the first time we asked candidates, are you using generative AI to help you with primarily with your cover letters and resumes? We're going to expand on that next year. But the bigger picture was that a much smaller percentage said that they were. It was only like across job types around the world in our data, 10 to 15-ish% said across that they were using. Now, somebody asked me 2 weeks ago in one of our Candy data reviews, do you think that it's actually higher than that and candidates are wary of being transparent about it? I'm like, well, they're anonymous responses, but it's possible that candidates are saying, oh no, I'm not using it. I think that that's going to change in years to come overall, but the reality is that they are using these tools to help them. And then what I jump to is I say, listen, you've got lazyapply.com, you've got jobhire.ai, you've got open source bots that are available today that are helping candidates to basically promote themselves and to apply for jobs. That is, and my argument there, that's not helping anybody.
I had just read an article, I'm trying to remember which university it was that did this out of the UK, that asked students if they were using ChatGPT for their resumes and applications. And it was super interesting because the number was 70% on the students. So my question for you on the data is, I wonder if you could slice it. I don't know if you ask age or age groupings, but that would be another slice that could be interesting is like, are you seeing certain age groups adopt it faster? Now, the UK study had a really interesting secondary piece that I found interesting, which is paid for versus unpaid for ChatGPT. And the paid for students were getting offers at a higher rate than the unpaid, students that weren't paying for it. So there's also that.
Interesting. So because there was more stuff that they got done because they were using the paid version. I'm trying to.
Yeah. There were a couple of sort of pieces that they didn't do a good job pulling apart. So one was, is that actually related to your socioeconomic status? And therefore, there's actually a whole lifetime of things behind that. So you weren't you didn't perform as well in school, your grades were lower, who knows, right? There's a bunch of things that were unclear in that data. But I think the net out was if you are willing to pay for it, the result is that you will get a higher or a better outcome. So it's just an interesting data point, right?
It is an interesting data point. I'm digging into something as we're talking real time to see if I can't help answer your question while we talk about it. But another thing on what's happening is, and I want to flip to this because recruiting teams are now, and a lot of video interviewing platforms are offering the real-time transcription of what's being said and shared during an interview, for example, and a live virtual interview, even for that matter. And they're capturing those notes. And, on the plus side, that hopefully will help them have better reviews with the hiring managers, better selection discussions at the end of the day, making sure they didn't miss something that was during the interview, that they were paying attention to the interview and not trying to jot down and take notes, which is actually a buzz killer for candidates when they feel like they're not being paid attention to and engaged. But what's the other double-edged sword of that, though, right? Because I'm recording all this information, so you always bring up the compliance thing that I always appreciate. So
I'm wearing a T-shirt about it today.
What is the deal there?
Let me start by saying I love note takers. I didn't know I was going to love them as much as I love them, but man, I do. I love them for myself. I love them for creating follow-up emails to make sure I don't forget anything. I love them. Anything recorded in your business is now subject to discovery. So if you're going to have your recruiters recording these calls, and you're going to have note taker aside, if it's recorded, it's discoverable, which means if your recruiter isn't locked in and like perfect, and they say anything they shouldn't say, and you're sued, that recording becomes part of discovery. And I think that that's a piece we forget because it's so easy. I don't need to ask anybody. I can just put on it can be like a web browser recording. And I think that recruiters, it's actually interesting. I was talking to a very large company recently, and their legal team said, oh God, no recorders. Discoverable, no recorders. And then they came back around and said, we changed our mind. Recorders are allowed as long as an AI is the one asking the questions and not a person.
Really? Seriously?
Seriously. The rationale was that if you've got an AI asking questions and it's set within a certain parameters that it can't deviate from, it doesn't try to like make friends with the kid and accidentally ask about their marital life and kids, right? Like the AI is actually less likely to go off script and ask a question it shouldn't ask.
Okay. But then you start connecting the dots to like the Workday lawsuit. That's kind of interesting to me and counterintuitive to what I would think an organization would say, because since we're still early days, and an example is that time and again, now that I keep asking organizations over and over again, listen, you may not be using much, if at all, AI in your recruiting tech right now. And maybe you don't have a chat bot and you don't do interview scheduling automated and all that. But your ATS, most of your mainstream ATSs, are you even aware of and are you using the matching and ranking for the applications as they come in? And a lot of them aren't using it because of compliance concerns, actually. They're not using that. And they're seeing, but then they're being buried in application influx of applications right now. So I know that's getting a little bit off task of what we wanted to talk about.
They're all intertangled, right? So two more things just to pile on to the challenge with the influx. So you've got this influx. You're afraid to use the ranking. And I appreciate it, right? Our friends at Amazon did this. They made a massive mistake. They were very transparent about what happened when they announced that they were using AI and that they were discriminating left, right, and center. And now there is a little bit of fear that exists, and probably a healthy dose of fear, because there's a reality of the technology is evolving faster than legislation could keep up. But even if legislation could keep up, like our understanding of it actually isn't keeping up. As our general knowledge understanding of it isn't keeping up to go at the rate in which this technology is evolving. So we've got a lot happening. And then you bring in like Colorado saying you now need to have expiration dates on your jobs. And they're unclear if that means you can take it down or not before the date. So if you're conservative, which a lot of companies are, especially if they're going to be in the crosshairs, I got to now leave this job up for 30 days. I'm getting 200 applications, 300 applications a day. Like at what point are we the recruiters are white flagging? I can't.
They are. And that's why, though, I'm hearing the opposite, regardless of what adverse impact it does have. Again, I'm not going to call anybody out, but I mean, if they put up a rec and they get 200 to 500 applications in 1 to 2 days, they're pulling it down because they can't, they have to go through those. And because there's been an increase in not only serial applications, just unqualified folks that are using these tools now. And what happens is that the people that may have potential and maybe potentially qualified are just getting buried. And recruiting teams that are leaner, they're manually reviewing everybody. And it's hard. I mean, I had one large managed healthcare organization say they had literally had 33.3% increase in application flow across job types.
You actually have another layer of challenge, right? So let's keep going. So depending on your ATS, you may or may not be able to easily add qualifying questions into the workflow. So for a lot of the ATSs from a construction standpoint, it's not simple to now add a qualifier. It's like you could actually, for like, let's say the healthcare organization, might be a really simple qualifier, like what year did you get your RN license in, or what state are you in? It's just something simple, but they can't because the systems are actually too cumbersome for them or not allowed to add these qualifying questions. And so
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
And they need to. How are they going to whittle that down? I mean,
prioritize.
But I mean, I think ultimately at some point, and maybe when there's more regulations in place, better laws and guardrails around using tools that are matching ranking algorithms, and they're trained, because it does take time, right, for these smart technologies to learn and to get more accurate, and they take humans to help train and shape them. But once we get there, the only way to deal with that, because nobody is disagreeing with me, it's going to get worse before it gets better. In regards to the volume and being able to screen through the sheer volume of unqualified applications that come in at any given time. But at some point, you're going to have to use those tools, though, when you get them in that place that you can be. But going back to the whole thing about, again, the recording of the conversations, the screening, the notes, and for that to be discoverable, I'm surprised that one organization said, let's let AI do it.
I think there's a string there real quick, Kevin, right? Because AI at this point means about 45 things, depending on who you
It
talk
does.
to.
I know. You're right. And we're generalizing that bucket right now. So
yeah, and I think in the mental model, from what I understood in this case, is like, let's look at AI as a series of guidelines or guardrails in which a series of fixed questions are asked, and then follow-on questions are allowed, but they stay within a very tight set of rules. I think that was the mental model. I get that, right? Like, because how do you control? Because you have to have your recruiters super, super tight if you're going to let them record. On the flip side, the nice thing about recording recruiters is the thing that we never talk about that I wish we would. The thing about recording recruiters that would be awesome, and hiring managers even more, is training. Like, what a missed opportunity, right? Like, oh.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is an area that we're seeing a lot of the newer, I'll call them newer candy winners that for this year that have above average ratings and candidate experience. Two areas that have been a focus is the screening and interview stage, always should be anyway, and the pre-boarding onboarding stage. But hiring manager training is the bigger priority that I've seen across the companies that we work with than I've seen even in recent years, pre or post COVID. So, and I think that it's completely a great use case for that, because you can anonymize and generalize and really help recruiters and hiring managers in particular understanding that this is what you say, this is what you don't say.
Well, when you think about it, right? A lot of your hiring managers you bring in from somewhere else with experience, right? Like, that's part of what you're actually bringing in, is that outside experience somewhere else, or they probably nothing to do with interviewing and hiring people as much as it has to do with everything else. And you don't know what they're going to say and do on a call, right? There's always that unknown, and especially on a call, right? And so now you can't record them, which is right. The lawyers say don't record it. So then do you creep in and listen? Like, what's the solution? Because you do really need to make sure that your hiring managers aren't, we use this word internally called thrashing, right? They aren't creating a thrashing activity where they like interview 4 people. They're like, I don't like any of them. I want something else, right? No, everybody's not this hiring manager.
Which is the cliche of what we hear from hiring managers. But I mean, you have to be able to hear and coach, right? I think it's the value is to understand what is working and what's not, which is what we do through the candidate experience data and for the comments. And I can tell you another theme that has been growing in our data the past few years that we're seeing on the negative side around interviews is just more and more candidates, again, self-reported anonymous data, talk about being thrashed, feeling like they're being thrashed and being disrespected during the interview process. It's not a new theme, but it's a theme that we're seeing a lot more across companies and industries, and that really calling out the hiring managers themselves, not the recruiters, but those that are eventually that are making the final decisions. But so it is a theme, but I think that is a great use case of recording. Really quick before we start to wrap up this episode. So we do it not by age, but by generation in our data and our demographics. So that's one of the demographics. What do you think would be the generation that is using generative AI more, at least in the way that we asked the question that I outlined? Which generation do you think is using it
Go
more?
millennials.
So you're close. In our data, at least for this year, and this is just focused on North America. I'm not looking at the other regions. There are variations, but in North America, it's Gen X. 35% are saying that they're using. I know, it's my Gen X, and then followed. That's 35%, followed by 30% who are millennial, followed by. Who do you think's next? It's Gen Z. So 23% said Gen Z. Now, what do you think? Let's just go to a couple more things. Gender. Who is using generative AI more, at least in the question of improving cover letters and resumes? Because that was literally the question, although we're going to expand on that more.
I'm going with the ladies.
It's females by 52% and by versus 45, and then non-binaries are really small, and there's always a prefer not to answer in our data too. Non-binaries are very, very small, but yes, it's female. And then lastly, race and ethnicity. Who do you think, according to our data now, is using the generative AI?
I'm flopping in my mind between sort of native English speakers and actually non-native English speakers and wondering about how much of that is, right?
That's a great question. We're not defining it that way, but white Caucasian, the way that is actually 40% say that they're using generative AI for at least in that context, followed by Black African American, followed by Hispanic Latinx, followed by Asian, but there's much lower segments, 22%, 17% that say that they're using it. Anyway, so overall, when you go back to the age range, at least, Gen X is the ones that are using it, according in our data, at least, using it the most. Now, we're going to ask one or two more probing questions next year around this, because that's the thing that I keep talking to companies about is we're more mainstream with AI today than we've ever been.
I would love to ask the question with candidates and sort of, you know me, right? I want to know, like, how do they want to apply for jobs these days? Do they like applying for a chatbot? Do they want to do it through text message? Do they like just manually old schooling it out? Do they just want the resume parser to get it right? Like, well, I mean, that's always a yes. But like, there's another sort of like, it's not really, I mean, some of it's AI, some of it's just like candidate preference on how they want to raise their hand and be noticed. I wanted to wrap up with, I did pull those data points that I was referencing before. Financial Times came out with an article just earlier this month, or I guess last month because it's November now, that it looks for them, the data said about 50% of applicants in general are using AI one way or the other, but 46% are using it for search and apply, with a different 45% saying build their
Where did this
resumes.
data come from?
So this is the Financial Times, and they are pulling it from Beamery and Canva's articles.
So my gut is this. I think our numbers are artificially low because I think candidates are worried. I do believe that when that person asked me, do you think it's that they're a little bit wary of telling that? I think that may be true. I think those numbers you were sharing, that seems really high to me.
Everything has a bias, right? So if you're talking about like professional workers versus the hourly workforce, you're also putting a bias right in there.
Oh, and then and speaking of that, before we jump, since you were sharing those data points, I can answer that for you too. So in our data, again, and we have a big hourly population in North America, not only just period out there in the wild, but also in our data too. 50% of hourly said they were using generative AI. And so that's interesting. It does, I mean, that kind of aligns that at least they told us they are. So I look forward to, but I think going back, so just in summary, right? I mean, this has only just begun. What's happening now of really mainstreaming AI tools, machine learning tools that we're all going to use more and more. I mean, I haven't even played with my Apple Intelligence yet, and I got phase 1 loaded now, and haven't even started. But I mean, these are things that are
Apple Intelligence is AI too, and I giggle every time I hear it.
I know, right?
It's AI's AI.
I think that was done on purpose, yes. But so the thing is that this has only just begun. And I do think it's important, again, to underscore that the companies are going to have to work through the compliance issues about discoverable data, as you pointed out, when it's being recorded internally. But I think you hit it on the head when you said that this is a great training tool for recruiters and especially hiring managers. So
Gotta figure it out. We gotta figure it out.
got to figure it out. So, Leah, it's always a pleasure talking with you. And again, I'm glad we caught up, and we'll do this sooner next time than later.
Sounds good, man.
Hey, thanks you all for listening and continuing to get talent synced. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you soon, and you'll hear from us soon again. Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Candy Benchmark research program and Job Sync collaboration. More episodes soon. Subscribe via your favorite podcast player today.